Minister, every academic year, concessionary ticket holders' children are being left by the roadside. In the majority of cases, the parents are not notified until a very few weeks before the beginning of term. This places a significant undue hardship on young families at what is already a very stressful time of year. There are a number of key areas within the school transport scheme which must be urgently addressed. The rules determining eligibility must be changed as they are not fit for purpose. Parochial identity is very important to rural people, and the current rules dismiss family tradition of attendance to a preferred school within their parish. Attendance of siblings to that school and the location of after school and extracurricular activities with local GA or other sports clubs is very important to these people. The rules stating that routes will not be extended or altered, additional vehicles will not be introduced, nor will larger vehicles or extra trips using existing vehicles be provided to cater for children travelling on a concessionary basis has to be scrapped. The Schools Transport Appeals Office must be scrapped and a new system put in place. It is totally pointless. Since 2015, 558 appeals were made to the board, none of which are upheld at a cost of $59,700 to the taxpayer. We need to establish an independent office to examine and consider matters for which a degree of discretion and common sense can be applied. However, Minister, there can be no change unless you go to Minister Bruton and Minister O'Donoghue and request that extra monies be made available in Budget 2019 to restore the criteria to pre-2011 eligibility rules when the changes are made. Fianna Fáil cost this in our 2016 General Election Manifesto at $3.2 million. Recent research we have conducted now puts the cost at roughly $4 million, relatively small money in a budgetary context. Will you request the funding from your government colleagues in advance of a budget 2019 and sort this problem once for all, Minister? That's ongoing year in, year out, and you know since you became Minister, I've been on to you every year at this time of year, every year non-stop. I'm asking now to finally take and run to the Minister, get the funding that's needed.
Minister Halligan to respond.
That's Corla, and thanks for your interesting questions. I suppose to concur with what I said, just let me give you a brief. The school transport scheme in Ireland is one of the best in Europe. We are moving 117,000 children twice a day, including now almost 13,000 special needs children in over 4,500 vehicles, as you have said, covering 100 kilometres annually at a total cost now of $190 million. Parental contributions towards the cost of transport is $15.4 million, so the state is carrying the rest. We are at present carrying about 24,700 concessionary children. My estimation at present, as we stand, is that there are some 350 children who are not eligible for school transport, who paid by the deadline date but were unsuccessful in obtaining concessionary school transport. I think that this has to be explained, and explained in absolute detail. The school transport scheme was put in place for eligible children. I did not put this scheme in place. This scheme was put in place, I think, actually by Fianna Fáil, and a very good scheme. This is not a criticism of Fianna Fáil, an excellent, very good scheme. The objective of the school transport scheme was to carry every eligible child to school and to carry every special needs child to school. Right now, there is not one eligible child either not on a bus or not getting the grant going to school. The scheme has been presented to me over the last number of years is a scheme to do with eligible children, not concessionary children. Albeit that we are carrying 24,700 concessionary children. You made a very valuable point regarding special needs. And let me tell you, during the summer holidays, I spent 2 weeks up here dealing with special needs cases that can be very complex in the sense that the government ensures that every child with special educational needs has school transport. But the difficulty is, by the way, half the school transport budget is being used to transport children with special educational needs. And I concur and I agree with that. The transport of children with SEN is a specialised service. The difficulty we have is generally operating on a door-to-door on an individual basis. Where an application is received, for instance, a vehicle and driver have to be procured. A bus escort may have to be hired. In some instances, we're hiring 2 escorts for a particular child. And Garda vetting has to be received. So this means that it can take weeks after an application has been received before the transport can be provided. Can I say that there are some cases described in the media that have had an unacceptable long delay, and I have asked the officials to look into these cases. I was not aware of them. And Bus Éireann will be in before me within the next couple of weeks, and so will its transport. You asked to change the system. Here's the problem. The problem is right now that, as the budget stands at 190 million, 190 million, for us to increase that budget to consider concessionary children, we are outside the legality of the system, and we're outside the criteria laid down to carry eligible children and carry special needs children. And can I say to the deputies, and I know Deputy Aylward has been to the forefront of many of these, I would have no problem. I would have no, if I had my way, I would carry every child. But consider this: every year we will have more eligible children, we will have more special needs children, and we'll have more concessionary children. The budget now is at an extraordinary amount. It's gone up year after year after year. And again, I have to say to you, the emphasis on the school transport system was to carry eligible children. This is what's before me, the criteria laid down for me, and to carry children with special needs. All of these children are being carried. All of these children are being carried. We had some difficulties with special needs, which I explained to you, and we're working through. But if an eligible child, unless there are a number of eligible children that missed out on payments, they were late on payments. The applications are in on April. The payment has to be paid by July. You can pay the payment over two sessionary payments. The difficulty here was when the payments were not in, other children were put on the buses. Was I to direct Bus Éireann that children that had not paid, and we were not aware that children were not going to pay, that we take the children off the buses? You over there would be the very first people to come back and say to me, you put a child on a bus 3 weeks and now you want to take the child off the bus. That's the difficulty that I have. And I'm being instructed by the department, instructed that for I to put on extra buses, I am now going to put on extra buses for concessionary children who essentially were not part of the scheme in the first place. If I can get the money for whatever concessionary children may come into the scheme this year or next year, I would be delighted to carry every concessionary child, absolutely delighted. And it would be my view that if we could do that, we could do it. So maybe a combination of Fianna Fáil, who are negotiating with the budget, and myself, we may very well be able to get extra funding. Do you not think that that would make my life easier? That I would have got deputies like yourself, and I mean, I know you mean well, and absolutely in your areas. I don't like to see any child, concessionary or otherwise, without school transport. But this is the criteria, this is the deck of cards that has been laid onto me, and this is what I have to deal with.
Yeah, Minister, I accept what you're saying, that you're working in the criteria the scheme is laid down there. But our job here as legislators, and your job as Minister, if there's a problem, is to change it. And there is a problem in rural Ireland in particular. And there's a problem, the demographics in rural Ireland has changed because of probably the good times when more people build in the area. And there's more people looking for the service now. And that's the reason why these changes were made in 2011, 10-11, was because of the strike over here, and there was a problem on pressure on finances. But now we're out of the recession. We're going back to prosperous times again. It's now it's your onus and your duty to now, like you told us you do the last 2 years, to look at it again and to look at a new scheme that is fit for purpose. That's what we're asking you. Fit for purpose that, like I said, the demographics have changed. The mothers and fathers now all have to work. The day for one parent working, the other at home is gone. So they have no choice. They're out in a country area. They're depending on the school bus to bring their children to school. And we're ignoring that. And parochial, I keep talking about parochial, to tell someone that their third generation now going through school and the amalgamations were done in '69, come along and tell them now that they now must go to another school after 3 generations where they have no connection to that area, none whatsoever. The connection is to the parish school that they went to and their parents and their grandparents went. We must take cognizance of this and we must go out there and change the system to suit what's the problems out there. I'm asking you to take that on board, Minister.
Much, last Concorda. You mentioned a particular school to me there. If you give me the information on that, and I will meet you, there's no problem on that. Just arrange it to my secretary, arrange it to the department. I'll certainly do that. I just wanted to talk to you on the 18%. We do have, and this increases over the last number of years, went from 15, 16, 17, 18% of everything. This is very difficult for us. We're not in a position, or I'm not in a position, to do an examination and ask families, are you putting your child on the bus or are you not? I can't do that as a minister, and I don't think Bus Éireann can do that, and I don't think the department can do that. Families are paying, and for some reason or another, their kids are not going on the school bus. Sorry? Well, that is very difficult. We're not, you know, right now, legally, I don't think we're in any position to question parents as to why their kids are not going on a bus, or question the school to know, are those kids going to that school? That means they would have to be on the bus, or question the kids themselves. That is something we're looking at, the 18%, if we can. That would help us a lot. Secondly, again, what I'm saying to you is this, that in the overall scheme of things, think about this. Think about 117,000 children twice a day. Think about 13,000 special needs children. Think about how successful that scheme is. Are there cracks? Do children fall through the cracks? Yes, of course they do. There are errors, there are emails missed, I suppose, it happens, I don't know. There are mistakes. Would there be mistakes that should have been rectified earlier on? Yes, I'm not going to stand here before you and say that everything is perfect with the scheme, but 99% of people on that scheme think it's an excellent scheme. And can I just say this also, that I have endeavoured, since I became as Minister, not to raise the cost of that scheme, at a detriment to myself that the cost on the government goes up every year. And the value for money with an independent review showed that what families are paying on a school bus, it would be 4 times the amount if they were driving their car. So it is really good value. So here's the dilemma I'm in. And all other ministers are in this dilemma. I am given a budget every year to say, this is your budget for the school transport scheme. I sit down with my officials weeks after weeks. The first thing we have to do is get special needs children on buses. That's my priority. The second priority in tandem with that is to get children that are eligible on buses. We then try to get concessionary children on buses. And it is not easy with the budget that we have, and again, as I've directed to you, only 15.4 million are paid by parents. The rest is covered by the state, going up and up and up every year. And, you know, it's a remark that was passed to me once, which I disagree with, but it was passed to me. Minister, you're putting 190 million into bringing children to school, but you're not putting that 190 million into the classrooms, where there were prefabricated buildings and so on. Now, I disagree with that. I believe it was a great scheme that was brought in, and we have to continue to bring eligible children and children with special needs to school. We've had 2 reviews in the scheme. I have no problem having a review on the scheme again, but what will happen is, to review the scheme will mean extra money to bring concessionaries into the scheme, because the difficulty at present is the kids that are not in the scheme are concessionaries, and that is what the problem. And just very briefly, and I'll finish, how did that come about? When we put buses into the scheme in a village or a town or a city, we'll say it was a 15-seater bus, and there was only 10 eligible children in that particular area. We decided, well, let's not leave the bus run with 5 empty seats. We'd put concessionaries on it. What happened was concessionaries started at 700, they're now at 24,700. The scheme is creaking at the edges. It means that every year we have to put millions and millions of more money to keep the scheme and to keep eligible children and children with special needs in the scheme.
I call on Deputy